Work-life balance.
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, that's something that's always been a huge part of my life, like from the get-go. You know, even in like high school, middle school, like I tried to be good in my academics so I could like get into a good school, whatever. But I've always been the like, you know, I've done all the sports. I mean, I'm jack of all trades. Like, just I'm really into art. Like, I kind of am an artist.
Yeah.
Like, I do all kinds of art all the time, dabble in different things. So I've like always seen life as like not kind of complete without having, you know, both work and play at the same level almost. And play is just really important for me because I kind of have a childish personality, I guess. Like, I'm one of those people who's never going to really grow up. I don't ever want to grow up.
I think that goes along with the energy that I can feel that you have. So I think that then you always do want to play, because the energy needs to go somewhere, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yes. Then there's a whole chemical side of it, the hyperactivity and like attention problems. Yes, there's the actual.
I didn't want to get into that, but okay.
Yeah, you know, like I bet a lot of us in these kinds of like adult sports actually are struggling with probably the notion of hyperactivity that we want to like get rid of the excess energy. I'm definitely one of those people. But anyway, so I think work-life balance. Yeah, so I like got into architecture at like a very high level, and I was always like super ambitious. I was sort of given a lot of feedback that I'd be very good at this, and never really doubted that for a long time. But then I just realized, you know, that it was like not enough for me as a lifestyle.
So that lifestyle that kept you up until 2 a.m. in the morning, still wasn't enough as a lifestyle. It was more like you wanted something else.
Yeah, I definitely like had a different connection to the world than just being interested in like being good at my job and like being like intellectually, conceptually, or professionally sort of you know, at the top of my field. I mean, I still want to be all of those things, but there's always like I think enough energy and capacity in me that I wanted this other connection, which that's kind of connected back to skiing and my love for skiing, and people kind of laugh at it sometimes when I like bring up skiing in the middle of like a professional conversation at a high level.
Yeah.
That love is huge. Like, it actually has transformed.
Or do you watch ski? What do you do? Like, how do you connect
I've
to it
become
right
an
now?
extreme skier. I do a lot of big mountain skiing now. So it kind of like in 2014 I discovered ski mountaineering.
Okay.
I don't know if you know what that is. So it's basically earning your own turn to climb and ski up mountains.
And you make up your own way down, kind of. It's not like on established slopes. Or,
So it's like off-piste. Like, it's not resort skiing. It's really like explore. It's like an expedition mentality. It's exploring. Well, depending on your level, the higher the level. Yes. Yeah. I would say a lot more extreme gravel riding. Maybe like more like extreme mountain biking.
Yeah.
I think that's the similarity.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
So like I got into this, like I'll give you an example. One of the first expeditions I did, I went to Antarctica with a bunch of like pros from around the world, like big ski legends, like, you know, Seth Morrison and you know, other people similar to the likes of like Jimmy Chin, maybe. But all these people who kind of are like extreme explorers through like either climbing, mountaineering, skiing, or a combination of it. So what we do is, you know, you put on these like touring skis, put skins on, which are these sort of like, it used to be I think animal skin, so it's like a felt type of thing that you put under your ski so it doesn't like ski backwards, so you can climb up. With like a big backpack full of all the gear, like your probe, shovel, beacon, your climbing stuff, your harness, like your crampons, full expedition, and then you climb for hours like a new mountain with guides. So you want to be with people who know the snow, the conditions, the avalanche, you know, it's kind of the avalanche risks and all that, because it's a very risky business. So anyways, I got really into that and started exploring like this big trip to Antarctica. You know, we did all these amazing descents at places like you would never get to otherwise. I've been doing just a lot of that, like once a year. So over the years I've like made up a community of skiers and sort of these people who are interested in that lifestyle, like all around the world. And I get together with my friends like at the minimum once a year, and we do, you know, these are people from like Japan, so like Chamonix to a lot of Lake Tahoe. Wonderful people. Not many East Coasters. I'm always looking for like an East Coaster who want to like go do this stuff with me. Yes,
call.
Please call me if you want to do extreme skiing on the East Coast. So Yeah, so we meet up, like, I've done this, like, snow camping and skiing deep in Chugach in Alaska, where we got like dropped with helis from with our kind of gear. So it's not heli skiing, because that's very expensive, but that's the only other way so we got dropped with our like camping gear. Yeah.
So how do you do that, and you find time for that, and I'm assuming that involves a little bit of practicing at least, and how do you still then also ride a bike around Central Park and are happy with that? Because it almost feels like that's not enough of a challenge then. It's not enough of a thrill.
It's different, exactly. It's a very different, it's not a thrill really.
So
like it's different.
So why do you stick with cycling then is my question, I guess. Like given that you have all this high energy, you have these different interests, and you have these I would say much more extreme, like even when you take a mountain bike race, and it's still a much more controlled environment by and large. And I don't know if you mountain bike or gravel ride.
Yeah, I just started actually mountain biking. I mean, I have a gravel bike. I've done a few cross races. I wasn't really good at it. Didn't really get into it. But mountain biking, I just started this summer and really love it. I think that's something I'd like to take further and probably would love to do more and more. It's more similar, but the skiing is just different. But you can't do it all the time unless you become a pro or a bum. Ski bum, whatever, which I've always thought I wanted to be. I just couldn't leave the city. It's sort of, I think you just have to come to terms with the fact that you can't do the skiing all the time, and it's actually also really exhausting.
Right.
I don't have to train for it, because I have I've kind of, I guess, been an expert skier for a long time now, so I don't lose that skill. I don't have as good mountaineering skills, so I go with people who are a lot more experienced than me, and I'm always the one that, I'm like, oh, how do you tie this rope for this? Should I pull out my axe, and how do you put the axe this way so I can pull it out faster in case of a crevasse? So I'm always out there kind of fudging it a little bit, winging. I'm like, okay, if I do fall in a crevasse, I don't actually know if I can get myself out. I know it. I have trained it and kind of studied it, but I have never been in that situation. So anyway, stuff like that. Fortunately, but I don't mind. I mean,
so with that,
with the cycling, sorry.
Go ahead.
It's the closest thing to it that you can do in the city.
Yeah.
I mean, to that feeling of freedom and.
You do get that on the bike. Yeah, I don't think I could compete with that, but that feeling of being in a field, running through the park and going fairly fast, and of being on the bike, I do think I personally get it, and it's not for me, but that's why I was asking. So, on that note too, then you were talking about kind of your role there as maybe not the most experienced mountaineer. What's your role then as somebody who's now been in the road racing community for 6 years or so and done triathlon before? How do you see your role? Are you just one part that keeps the community going? Do you see yourself as having a certain role, or are you somebody who pushes the extremes of people? What do you do?
I think that no, I don't push anyone to the extreme. I mean, that's a big risk to I will never push anyone to there. Everyone should decide on their own extreme. I would never want to take that responsibility, or you never know what the other people are comfortable with, or even sacrificing, So for me, I'm actually the captain of the women's team.
Okay.
I do it with Emily, and
Emily Singleton, is that
we're this good yin yang couple that keeps it going. I think. We just have different skills, but we are also we communicate seamlessly, which is kind of amazing. So my role, I'm not out there winning all the points and winning the races. That is definitely not my role, nor aspiration, knowing the reality of the fact. Mm-hmm. But I am a good leader. I've always good leader in some ways. I need Emily for the parts that I'm lacking in that.
Right.
But I've always been in leadership positions, from the teaching roles to companies and projects, in so many things. I've just kind of always been that natural place, and my strength in it is doing. Like I'm a doer, and I have ideas,
I think that's become
and I'm a doer.
Clear. Yeah.
I get shit done. Like if
and
I
you
don't,
enjoy
I
that
might as well
part
do it.
of almost the organizational logistics part, the running the team behind the scenes, but also on the day.
I don't enjoy the organizational part, and I don't enjoy the communication. I actually try to do the organization, but when it comes down to the nuances of communication, I need Emily there. Thankfully, she's also our CRCA board's communications director, so that's a great role.
We're all thankful for that, I think.
No, like, I think people who are doers and who have ideas, they kind of bypass the importance of like also explaining their ideas to others to like gather they'll have to do it. Like for me, I'm like, I have an idea, I know how to do it, I'll go do it. If you want to join in, let's do it. So with the team, I'm kind of like, okay, we have to expand it and we want all these amazing people. So we need to strategize about how to get them on board, both from their point of view, from the point of view of like all our team bots, and from the point of view of the other girls who are on the team, because it's a very complex dynamic. People want different things, they don't always know what's best, so you kind of need to like, so for me, like creating that community has been like an exciting part of it.
And I think that's the key, right? That's why people want to be on a team or in a group, because like you said, there has to be like, they have to fit in, right? And I think it's more than you're a fast bike rider or you like riding bikes. It's also personality-wise, I think in some ways that with CSCA, all the sub-teams have kind of created, I think, their own community culture.
Yeah, there's that. So I think that's one part of it, like just creating and preserving the community within Rockstar and with my team. And then the other part is, of course, like the community beyond that. Like recently we've been helping out with Alex Ostro's women's team. And that I find super fun and kind of rewarding. So we've been helping people.
Which is just kind of a new start too, and I want to talk kind of the initiator. Hopefully in the next weeks I can talk with the initiator of that group too. So, but I saw you, I think, on one of the first rides, which
we went out just this past weekend. It was super fun. So we're gonna do like another ride tomorrow morning in the park with the girls. Like, it's also a good way for me to get out there, because at this point, like, getting out to Central Park, you just do it over and over and over again. It loses all its like interest for me.
Yeah, I'm with that. There's some people who are big park devotees, and they're like, this is the best thing that could happen. I have this
people love their
basically
routines.
freeze outside Zwift all day, every day, whenever I want to, and but for some people, you kind of over it after a while, or at least if you've done it too many times during the year. So
I think it's a personality type. Like there are people who love the routine, and they'll be.
You like the pumpkin pie now?
Yeah, thank you.
Like disturbed, and then there are people who need a change. Like I'm one of those people who need a change, like every now and then, and I can go back to something.
But the group is a good reason to come back in, and it kind of, you're not going to the park to do your own work on your own kind of. You're going with a group, and you have a kind of purpose there that's beyond just riding on your own.
Yeah, I mean, you connect with new people. It's always so rewarding to make new friends and hear people out. If, they have questions, being able to answer them or something. So I would say that's more my role, just being like a happy person
being there and communicating there. And has that been hard, the community building and the recruiting is maybe a little too aggressive of a term, but like recruiting new members or finding new members for your team, but also for the women's community in general. Here we are again. I've already apologized for always bringing the conversation with, I think, the female interviewees that I have with. It's always the question of like, can we grow the female community? And I don't think you have to have the answer to that, but I'm curious about the perspective at least. So.
I mean, I think we are I think it's growing by default, because COVID, a lot of people got into cycling during COVID. It's growing. I think the most important thing, there are always women willing to ride and race, but not everyone has a personality to stick with it when it comes to becoming a part of this community. Unfortunately, I would say that there's some sort of like difficulty within this community where it cannot be so welcoming sometimes. As much as we talk about being, I would say the racing. As much as like we talk about it being like, I was so intimidated for a long time. And even by those who recruited me or who like got me into cycling, I was still intimidated, because there's a part of it that just wants to be kind of exclusive and slightly elitist. They would never admit to it, but it's sort of almost like a pride and joy type of thing.
I think some people do it more consciously and some people less consciously. but I agree with you. That
I would say less.
We talk about that all the time, and yet we still don't do enough to make it a more welcoming place.
I mean, I've seen it. Like, you go to a race and new girls show up, but teams stick together. If they're interested in recruiting someone, then they'll like get closer, but then they won't even talk to the person next to the person they want to recruit. It is so alienating, and it's so not socially, it's socially freaking awkward. So I think like we try not to be that way in Rockstar. Like, just, I think the goal with all of us is, and I think I would say your team too, like just being open to everyone. I mean, it doesn't mean because you want them on your team or you're not sure if the other person, like, it's not a reason to be friends with them. Like,
I agree with that,
I think it's really key. I think I would say people in, like, leadership positions within this community, yes, they need to be doers and, they need to obviously have time to volunteer their time, and that's super appreciated. But I also think they have a role to be extra welcoming and extra kind of open and encourage everyone to be that way.
I think you need to get out of your way to do that. I think
they have to.
I think we can all do that better. Sorry.
Yeah, because it sets an example.
Yeah. And I think maybe part of it is, of course, that we are there to compete and to race and all that, but people get so focused on that. And I always kind of joke, this is a club race. It's not, and we joke about it, and Charlie with the Prospect Club race, it's all not the World Championships, but everybody still sees the competition element of it, and New York's a competitive place, right?
I mean, real athletes, I think, are those who can compete, but also be extremely humble and inviting and open. Like, that's the athletic spirit. And I think the really good athletes, you always see that. They're there. They're extremely humble, they go in their race, and then they're extremely friendly with everybody else. But I think it's that, like, I mean, if you have a bit more of a fear or insecurity about what you're doing, then maybe that becomes sort of a psychological roadblock that you're not as open either. Maybe there's anxiety. So, but I feel like some of the, like, best athletes I know are also those who are, like, extremely friendly and generous.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And again, I think I don't want to point to like a person or a team, and I don't think I can even. It's more that together as a group, as a community, even though I think we're doing better, even though I think there's a lot of people trying, we still need to do better. There's still the people, and I get a little tired of that too, the people outside of road racing who are not road racers, they're always like, the roadies are arrogant and whatnot. And I don't like the stereotype, but I think there's always a kernel of truth to stereotypes, and I think it is coming from a place, and I think that we can work on that. And I think the women's community is usually a little bit more welcoming than the men's community even. So,
and we can be more so. I think it's like about getting people out there and teaching. Okay, so the other thing that's really important, I think, with getting women and men into cycling is skills. Like, I really do think that one of the deterring factors is when people show up to a race and there's an accident and they never want to come back. And I think that has a lot to do with your skill level.
Right? Yeah.
It's very understandable. I'm okay right now.
Okay.
Maybe
I'll leave a little bit.
And that's kind of like what I want to help out with Ostroy's team. Like, if I can, as much as possible, because we see, in races, and I don't want to like deter anyone from wanting to race because it's dangerous, but it is a dangerous sport. I mean, we've all seen really bad accidents, right? Accidents that we don't ever want to get involved in.
If you compare it to other sports like running, there's a higher risk of.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to the hospital for myself or for my friends quite more times than I would like to. But I think the way to avoid it is really like kind of work on the skill set and racing skill set, as well as like bike handling, to the same level as like your strength and speed. Like, I'm worried now, everyone has been like training really hard during COVID, so they're going to show up being very strong but with minimal skills. And we've seen it in the past, someone gets strong really fast but then like creates an accident and other people get injured. And that's
I fully share that with you. I've had the conversations that 2021, if and when racing will happen again, I think we run the danger of everybody being so motivated and race deprived, and maybe you haven't been riding too much on Zwift and that only, and that we will need a very healthy reminder to say we're all going to be back to work on Monday, and we need to be relaxed about this.
Exactly.
This is just hopefully in that time that a club race or a park race or whatever it is, and it's not again. It's all fun, but it ends when you make it dangerous. And like you said, I think especially newer riders don't always like the skills, but are often, and then when you are not so comfortable yet on the bike, then you might be again intimidated by a kind of aggressive environment, right? That can be off-putting.
Yeah, and that's like, it's a group sport at the end of the day, so you're responsible for other people. Like that to me, when you're talking about the adventure aspect of like skiing versus this, yes, like the kind of skiing I do always has the danger of death, like at any given day. But that's my choice, and it only affects me and my small group of people.
You can control it easily too.
You can control it, or and you take a group decision whether or not to take that risk. And it is life and death. But but you choose to do it because it's that important to you, whatever. But with cycling, I mean, if it's that important to you that you want to like break something, I don't know. It's irresponsible to the other people.
Yeah.
I feel like because it is amateur. We all have jobs and lives.
Yeah, and it's a big range, right? It's that we have in our community that people who do take it very seriously and maybe want to potentially not be amateur or like semi-pro, whatever you want to call it, and then the people who it's kind of a very low priority, but they still enjoy doing it, right, in their life, and they have family and friends and other hobbies and jobs first, and we all come together and we need to make it work.
And I think it's really important to keep the racing at all levels, because if you only try to keep it at the highest level, it's really going to be a handful of people. It's not fun for anyone. And then like when fields get smaller and you combine the fields, so you have high level, low, like the whole range racing together. In the women's field, that happens pretty much all the time now.
So is that
it's really hard. I would say it's not.
Can it be a problem?
Yeah.
Like, because the women's field usually at CRC it's a 1-2-3 field, right? And
1, 2, 3, and then the 4,
and the
5.
4, 5. And does that work for the most part? Or even there in the 3-1 is a bit too much variation. On the men's side, there is, I think, a big diversity in terms of strength, but when you have 100 riders on the line, you can kind of hang in there, right? But it's smaller in the women's field, right?
I don't think the variation in women's racing is between 1 to 3, because it's actually really hard to upgrade in the women's races, I feel like, because you really have to just be winning all the time because the field numbers are so small, you don't get the points. So people who are winners are usually the same. It doesn't mean they're strong in everything, but they're like the better sprinters or the better kind of climbers. So that can be a 3 or a 1 who has like quickly upgraded, but they're a new young rider and they only have that specific skill. But there are a lot of very experienced 3s. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm very experienced, but I've been racing for a while and I have my strengths, but I don't put in the time to upgrade at the moment. But I can probably been racing longer down some of the 1s. So like, and there are a lot of people like that. So I feel like between 1 and 3, I don't think it's a matter of category. I think it's pretty even. The category is just really the formality that some people just are not upgrading and not winning the races, but they're still equally strong. In the 4-5, there's definitely, I would say, a bigger range, because then there are super strong ones who show up. Like we had 2 riders like that, which we immediately put into the 1 to 3 category, and they won that race too. So then there's that kind of freak accidents, amazing stuff. But then also in the 4-5, you get people who just keep getting dropped and dropped and dropped, which is fine. But then if those people are with those who can win the 1, 2, 3 category, then that is like a really weird race.
That's problematic.
They get lapped in Central Park. Like that is just. So it's a bit weird. Like there's just not enough competition. Like not
that
enough.
That would be helped by bigger fields, like more women on the line. I think then it would even out a little bit, or in the sense that you would have more women who are true 4, true 5 riders rather than really ability level wise already wanted. They have others to ride with them probably, right? And
then I would say there's maybe people who are like really good. They're 1s and 2s, but they're like really much stronger. There are definitely women who are significantly stronger than the rest. I think they probably I would imagine they seek more racing at a higher level that maybe we don't have.
again, problem that.
But that's out of town racing. I mean, Central Park, it's just a park, you know. It's a park in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Like that's the best you'll get.
Yeah, and then the options are obviously fewer for them in terms of where to race and how often and all that. So,
it's changing, but it's not as
If you don't mind, how many hours a week do you ride or train or whatever? Just because, like, to give some of the beginning cyclists maybe an idea, when you're making it work, you said you're currently not thinking about being super ambitious about it, but you're still riding with the 1, 2, 3, the A field, whatever you call it, and you're having fun. So,
and for me, like, it went from with triathlons, I was at some point up to 20 plus hours of training a week, and I got burnt out. That was years ago. Now I train. So I'm the I would say the least training among my team members. I train anywhere between 4 to 10 hours a week, depending on the week.
10 hours is a lot though.
10 would be like a great week where I got like a big weekend ride or two. So I try to do personally like 4 days and maybe like 3 weekdays, 1 weekend. And then if I was in season, I would be doing 2 weekend days, like 1 racing, 1 training. A lot of people, I think, just take 1 day off. I know that that's pretty common. I used to do that. I don't anymore. Okay, yeah. It's good. I mean, I try to do strength these days, which is something I've been avoiding for a long time.
Yeah, it's probably pretty healthy.
I'm going rock climbing, things like that.
But when you get to 10 hours, it's more like you have that one long weekend ride that kind of brings it up to that, right?
Yeah,
and that's the same for me,
kind of cheating,
well, but it really is like half of your hours in the week then, probably. That's at least what it's kind of like for me. So that was interesting. I want to transition to another topic because I don't want to keep you too long. But you mentioned that connection. I think that kind of comes naturally, maybe as an architect, that being an urban cyclist, and you brought that up. What does that mean to you? And beyond, well, we're obviously in New York City, and we're riding and on bike lanes, in bike lanes, outside of bike lanes, in traffic. What does it mean to you?
I mean, it's nothing more deeper than the fact that we like ride in the city and not just ride and race and train. So it's this sort of incredible connection to the urban environment. Like, I feel like when you are exerting yourself, you have a more visceral connection to wherever you are, because you are literally like blocking out everything else in your head and you're just like concerned with right there and then. So when you're riding in the city or you're racing in the city, you really are right there and then. Like, you learn the nuances of Central Park. You learn the fauna and flora of Central Park and how the the little like urban squirrels react, or when you're like racing down city streets with cars to get to somewhere. You kind of have this like connection to the way drivers in the city work versus like the truck drivers, and then you see the neighborhoods. Like, everything becomes so much more, I think, vivid because you're not blocking out by like being on your headphones, looking at your phone, or chatting with a friend, or like just thinking. You're literally concentrating on being right there and then and safe. So I think that kind of brings like a different level of connection to the city that we live in. Like, it's really visceral, and like it becomes literal, like blood, sweat, and tears if you bring in the cycling. I think there's something really powerful about that connection to the city, and we can get really into it in terms of more like sort of conceptual and abstract, or we can get very like kind of concrete and architectural, from like bike lanes to other areas where we can ride bikes. I mean, obviously the city is slightly getting better with bike lanes, but there's still a long ways to go. But I just think that it makes you more of a New Yorker or an urbanite, that you have that connection, that you're not just zoning out all the time. You're kind of more like zoning in. I
feel very alive when I ride through the city. That's how I always describe it. I think you feel more alive riding through the city than when you ride in the park or you ride on a rural country road, just because you have to be almost more
you have to be alert.
Aware.
Oh, and now you cross all the different bridges. You you really explore. Like, you become a part of the city in a way that I don't think you can be otherwise.
No, I agree. You're not limited to the subway stops or the major roads.
And the pace. Pace is important. Like, some cities are like, for instance, Berlin is made to bike. You know, that place is. But and
it's nice and flat too. So
it's a flat,
So you brought up bike lanes, so I do want to get the architects. You're not an urban planner, right? But you're an architect. You kind of have probably connection and you've seen it now. You said over a long time too, and maybe since you weren't biking in the beginning, you weren't really paying attention to it so much. But it's gotten better. It's not good enough. I don't think anybody thinks it's good enough.
It's New York.
Yeah, it's New York.
It's New York. It's not Europe.
Yeah.
Like New York, everything is kind of like, and this is how I would like describe when I first came to the U.S. One thing I noticed is people just paint over paint. Like you look at all these buildings and paint, it's been painted over 10 times. So this grime just builds up and it's never going to be perfect because it's like so far. And that's New York. They always fix and patch. Like
that's how
they'll
I've described,
add this and then they'll push that over a little bit and they'll make a new rule, but that rule doesn't make sense with anything else. That's so New York. Whereas like in Germany, especially, let's say in Europe, but it would never be like if you're gonna paint, you would scrape off the paint and do a perfect job. Or if you're putting bike lanes, it's a top-down like conceptualization that thinks about the whole system, not
Here
just
it's
that
like
one
we're
little
gonna put
street.
some green paint down and that's the bike lane now.
Yeah.
And then if you have like potholes and like the manhole covers all over the bike lane, which makes it so dangerous,
and at the end
especially
of
for
the
beginning
street,
riders.
that green lane ends because no one thought about the rest of that green lane. It's so New York. It's so America.
It
like,
is.
Fast-paced. Everything.
I look at that too. Yeah. When they repave a street, it's like the same bumps that were in there before are now still in there because they didn't really even out what's underneath the surface, and they just kind of put a new surface on it, and you still have the same bumps on a really new surface.
It's very much, I think, like an old world, new world type of thing, where like there's this like urge to be faster to catch up, and that's such an American thing. Like just urge to keep going, like to catch up. Whereas as opposed to kind of thinking systems through with like a longer vision and with all this like learned knowledge of the past and years. Here it's like solve it.
So if that's the limitation or not limitation, it's just the character of the city, maybe.
Charm.
Is either charm. Yeah. I mean, I think that is part of it for sure. It can be frustrating sometimes. It can be fascinating other times, right? But how do you? Is it ever going to become a truly bike-friendly place then?
Yeah, sure. I think like...
Or is it going to happen? Because for that process, if it's never that systematic, is that going to...
It's just a big mess. I think more people are going to get into bikes, so then it's going to have to become bike-friendly. Yeah. I don't think it's going to be the sort of people at top or who are, writing the rules and legislatures who are going to solve it, because I don't think those are good people. Like people who are doing it are not good.
So it's going to be a bottom-up process rather than top-down.
Yeah. So let all those fixie guys go out there. Everyone should become a rider. Just
take over the city.
Take over.
Make the change now.
Yeah. There's no one out there looking out for us like as much as we should.
I would agree with that.
I
would agree with that. I think we need to be active as a community there rather than wait for what we would consider common sense to come to policy making.
Yes, it's the agendas are definitely too convoluted, I think, to be like straightforward. And
it is, and of course not everybody, but a lot of people still drive cars, and that's a big part of the voting population, so that's always going to be people that get considered when the elections come, or voters to make promises. But you're right, I think we have more cyclists on the road, and as the clinic that you were part of showed, hopefully also more like women then coming into road racing, which I was kind of end up focusing on. I feel like there was one more topic that we wanted to...
Colors we wanted to talk about.
That's right. So I forgot to mention that in the beginning, but when I first started this project, and I had talked with Christine, our teammate, and she had kind of designed the logo for this, which I think is super awesome. And she asked about the colors, and I said, well, green and white, our team colors. I kind of want to keep it a separate thing from the team because I don't want to make it just about our team. I really want it to be about the community. And then it's like I looked around, I'm like, oh yeah, colors, everything's blue already, and like is it blue and maybe not, and then I ended up settling on the flag of New York City, which has these. We don't want to get too much into the history, but that's how it ended up being orange, blue, and white, and the colors aren't exactly the same probably, but they're close enough, and I think they're vibrant though, and I like that actually, and I personally like orange and blue combo. And you were one of the first to kind of comment on, Christine talked about how she had kind of designed the logo, and you were like, well, but what about the colors? And I was like, well, let me tell you, And then we kind of started going a little bit almost into colonial history because it's you know, everything's colonial in the United States ultimately, and everything is a question of conquest in the end. And so I don't want to say that, but I don't think necessarily this was a political decision. And ultimately, the colors go back to the old Dutch flag in New Amsterdam and the beginnings of New York City and all that. But I didn't want to make it too deep of a question, and we could argue about that part. But you are certainly somebody who pays attention to that kind of stuff, though.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I would say, Paul, I chose to be on Rockstar initially because I like the colors.
So kind of, back then, I'm assuming it was like a black-pink.
Black and pink, but it's not. It's more than that, obviously. It's a bit of a joke, but not really. I mean, it's.
Well, so it is a joke and it isn't, right? Because I don't think anybody, especially in the bike racing community, hasn't like said that they're either on the team because of the kid or despite of the kid, right? Because some people are on teams where like I don't really like our kid, but I like the community. And but a lot of people get attracted by a certain kid, and like motorcycle often get comment, oh, I like the kid, or you have a very striking kid, eye-catching kid now.
Yeah, and I'm like, it's in my profession. Like I do art and architecture and creative, so I pay attention to that. But in terms of colors, so I believe that there's like two ways of looking generally at colors. One is more like based on more abstract, like it's based on feelings and emotions and how you feel. And for me, my relationship with color is a lot more sort of about the feeling. I mean, they induce certain feelings, right? And I love color. Like,
so you feel that response from, say, black or from blue or from
like just kind of, you can get it from any color. Black and white are a color. It's all colors. And then the other way is more of a rational way. And I feel like if you are someone who don't necessarily feel the connection to colors, you want to do something with color, you like look for a more rational kind of justification, which becomes more of like a symbolism, a metaphor, a symbolism, and which was in your case like it was a symbol of like New Amsterdam.
Yeah, so it was meant to be about, I think, about the New York City community, but for lack of a better kind of unifying set
but
of
it
colors.
Was like a rationalization of color as opposed to a feeling for color. So, which I don't relate to as much, for instance. I understand it. It's a very graphic design.
Now that you're saying that, it makes a lot of sense. Why I had a more rational approach. But
but it's like it's also like where a lot of graphic designers come from, unless their interest is also kind of about the like more like sensual aspect of colors. So with that, what I'm trying to get at is like it's just like when I like thought about New York City bike culture. I know you didn't want to use green, but you know there's green comes in so many different tones, right? It's not always just Vesalco green, and you guys even have different, I think.
We do, it's not always the same tone.
Like green always like talks about to me, you know, obviously health and nature and connection. So there's something there that, you know, initially I was like, oh, like I see this more as like a version of, maybe it's a neon, I don't know, but sort of. So that's why I was curious. I'm like, what's the blue?
The green is also the bike lane, so that was a conversation I had with Christine, and like I think in the bike community,
there's
the nature,
kind of like
the
a blue and like there's like a blue and orange there. With the parking sign, it's almost a bit more
it's
like
less aggressive, maybe less neon. Or...
I know. I kind of feel like orange is a sign of orange.
Yeah, tell me what you think of when you think of
orange
blue
is like attention and kind of caution. You know,
maybe.
The cone and just vest and stuff. But the orange you guys use is it's more of a Dutch orange, but that also has like such a specific connection to a certain Dutch genre of design. And now when you bring in the blue, and it kind of to me is like unfortunately a little bit of like the NYPD, and so the orange and the blue really kind of
warning
are
colors
to me,
like
they relate to traffic a little bit, which may
not actually all that,
but also like
away from what I want to do, but too much.
But
of the
maybe also the
side.
punishment system a little bit, you know,
too much of the rules and the regulations and all that. I get that. So what would you have chosen for something that also unifies or not?
Neon.
You want to go neon or you don't? Okay.
Yeah. I love pastels. Like I'm more of like a you know, I paint and I like paint fabrics and stuff all in pastels, but I don't think you want to do New York City bike culture in a pastel.
No, I agree. I like the kind of strong colors that kind of Christine suggested, and
I don't know. I would do a neon pink.
I see a sense of theme here.
No, I'm not trying to.
Okay.
I don't know. I would.
Yeah.
It is nice. It's
I don't necessarily think that you need to have the
blue
answer.
And
but
pink. How about
blue
that? Like the navy.
Now that is coincidentally the Rockstar kit currently. So it's more of a purple than a blue, but it is.
No, it's a blue and a coral.
Very dark blue.
We're a blue and a coral.
Coral. Okay.
I'm thinking.
Yeah, I'm clearly not a color expert, but coincidentally,
okay.
very similar to the Rockstar kit. Yeah.
I was thinking
Which
more
you don't
like
have an example
this kind of pink.
Okay, that's a true
and
pink.
your blue on the New York City bike culture.
Okay.
So, just I don't know.
Maybe I'll have a different logo
Did you look
in
at
2021.
options? That's the other thing. We should always look at maybe.
Yeah, we looked at 3 or 4 versions.
Maybe it is. It's personal taste too.
It is ultimately. Unfortunately, I'm my boss here.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I do take input, so maybe 2021 will have a little bit of pink in there.
Yeah, but I do love Christine's design process. That was so straightforward. Yeah, so
and
great.
she was fantastic to work with. I would imagine you would be very similar to work with in terms of color. Maybe I need a consultant on the colors now too, separate from the design.
Can do that.
But she did, yeah, and she was great with that. And we did have different options, but
she executed the client's wishes at the end.
She really did. No, but at the same time, really, I didn't have to I gave her my guidelines, and I didn't have to give her too much, and she went with it, and then she came up with something great. And I really appreciate that. So, and it was a very pleasant process. But coming back to that, finally, so you're happy with the current kit then, and maybe talk
Our
about
kit?
talk about that kit, and I don't know if you had a role in that. And second part maybe is. Pick a cycling kit in the community that stands out to you that you really like, and then maybe we can also talk about the eye-catching, controversial, already a big hit on the reselling market kit of EF Education that just came out. I've been paying attention to that. But so
I liked it for one night, and I really loved it for that one night.
Okay, it could get old.
No, I like it. I would have it. It's just the hype. When something gets so hyped up, and when Rafa does a drop, and people are waiting 10 minutes or whatever.
Well, like I said, you can buy them online for close to
$1,000
now. So
amazing.
Wow. I think they're probably already sold out.
I actually saw someone wearing it, and I thought it looked cool. Like the other day on 9W.
I saw people too on this past weekend already had it.
Yeah. I mean, I like our kit a lot. It's definitely a collaboration between MAP and I would probably Paul at Rockstar.
MAP is the manufacturer, should say, from Australia.
From Australia, and it looks very much like their other kits, but it's sort of like.
I was gonna say I've seen another kit that very similar color.
Yeah, it's very it's mildly customized for us, but we all love it. The color I think is for us.
It looks great. Yeah.
Yeah, we like it. It's. I like a lot of kits out there. I really like what Alex does with his kits. They're fun.
Yeah, Alex Ostroy. Yeah.
I like the MoMA, the black and white MoMA kit.
I think he's an artist, and you can tell he's creative and adventurous.
He's worked a lot with
choices.
MoMA and other.
Yeah.
Britley, amazing designer. I've always liked everything she's done.
Yeah.
Britley is such an amazing personality in the whole bike racing
I'll put that in the show notes too. Okay. Yeah.
And she's such a talented designer too. Like it's everything she does. I think it's good, great.
Okay.
No, I mean it's all good. Oh, I like you guys' kit a lot.
I was gonna say, can you talk about it? Can you don't like?
No, I actually really like the Maselka kit. It's simple,
No, I've had plenty. Thank you.
It's lovely.
I'll take the check. Thank you. Yeah.
And it's like I can see Etsu's connection to the design there. Like there's I love it. It's very rich and I think history and kind of feels like that to me as in design history. Yeah, it's all good. I don't know. I'm probably forgetting everybody's kit is cool.
We'll talk off the record about the kits you don't like.
Dahan designs really nice kits for TBD.
Dahan Perker, another one of your
I went to high
compatriots.
school with him, yes.
Oh, I did not know that. That is hilarious. So you just both ended up in the same place here. I mean, it's not that quick. New York's a big city, big place, but still, yeah. So that's TBD, to be determined of the local teams he enjoys. So he's the creator of that kit.
Yeah, he's a great designer.
Okay, great. We'll end on that note, maybe, because we could talk kids now forever. 2021, what's going to be in it for you as a bike rider, and maybe personally too? What do you think? Hopefully, just some racing.
Yeah, I want to train a little bit more now that I had a bit of a time off. A little bit more, race at the same speed. I have a lot of projects happening, so I'll try to balance that stuff.
Always the life-work balance kind of question.
Yeah. But it's doable. Just enjoy. I don't
roll out of bed at 4 or 5 for the races and then see what happens. All right, well, hopefully... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I hope we can race.
Let's... to that.
Yes, to
that.
that.
So, thank you.
Sure.